Hello everyone, welcome to the Wuxia Audiobook. Today, we will continue to the next part of the series Renegade the Audiobook.
Chapter 81, Stealing Foundation, 1. It was an extremely ancient sword. An evil aura was being released by the sword. That made it so that one couldn't help but stare at it. After a long time, Wang Lin slowly awakened. His eyes lit up as he gained some understanding. 3 days later, the entire Tang family city was covered in flowers as thousands of cultivators walked through the streets. Jiang Hu and Wang Lin had left early in the morning and were wandering around in the city. Because Jiang Hu needed to sell the ginseng, he left after talking to Wang Lin for a bit. Wang Lin slowly walked through the city while checking out all of the stalls. Some of the stuff really interested him, but the prices were simply too high, so Wang Lin left. While he was walking, he suddenly stopped. Before him was the stall of a cultivator who had various flying swords, pieces of jade, and a thread-bound book. There were a few small words on a book. Basic formation research. Formation? Wang Lin rubbed his chin and picked up the book. The little book was pretty thick. There were about 50 or 60 pages in the book. The stall owner was a 30-something-year-old man. He raised his head and slowly said, 10 mid-quality spirit stones for the book. If you're not going to buy it, don't carelessly touch it. 10 mid-quality spirit stones was all that Wang Lin had at the moment. After flipping through the book for a bit longer, he saw that the stall owner was getting impatient, so he put down 10 mid-quality spirit stones and left. He checked out a few more stalls and found some wood element materials, but they were all very expensive. There was even a piece of ironwood, but its price was unfathomably high. A day had passed before Wang Lin even realized it. He returned to the inn and, just as he was about to step inside, he raised his brow and stopped. Normally, at this time of day, the inn was really lively, but it was completely silent at the moment. Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and his face suddenly changed. There was a mysterious force surrounding the inn that was preventing Wang Lin's divine sense from going in. Without a word, Wang Lin's body immediately moved backwards. He surrounded his body with the attraction technique and his body shot back dozens of meters like a sword. What's this? Your reaction was pretty fast. A slightly surprised voice suddenly came out as a person walked out of the inn. This person was 25 or 26 years old and wore a white robe with black vines embroidered on the cuffs. He looked at Wang Lin, who was quickly backing away. He sneered and said, Tang Jia, Tang Yi, the two of you wait here for that kid, Jiang Hu. Destroy his cultivation, then throw him into jail while I catch this nimble brat. The moment he said those words, 2 shadows shot out and appeared next to him. The 2 shadows were 2 wrinkly-faced old men. One of them said, My lord, these 2 people are in Tang family city. This is against the rules. If the head asks. The white-robed man frowned and stared Wang Lin. He said, If my grandpa asks, just tell the truth. Jiang Hu got help from an outsider to kill his own teacher. How could I let such people get away? With that, he waved his sleeves and his body flew into the air as he quickly chased after Wang Lin. The 2 old men looked at the young man before leaving, then disappeared without a trace. Wang Lin released all of his power and pushed himself to the limit to run away. Right as he saw the walls of the city, a few shadows suddenly appeared and shouted, Feng family city has a restriction on flying. Fellow cultivator, please stop. Without a word, Wang Lin took out a gourd. He didn't have time to worry about the secret of the spirit water getting out as he took a big gulp. Spiritual energy filled his body as his speed exploded and he shot forward. The expression of the Tang family disciples, who were blocking Wang Lin's path, suddenly changed. Wang Lin charged through as he used his attraction technique to throw the disciples to the side. Like an unstoppable force, Wang Lin broke through. Because of his actions, more than 100 Tang family disciples riding on different treasures chased after him. Wang Lin felt very bitter in his heart. He still didn't really know what exactly was going on. He didn't know what had happened back at the inn to cause those people to be waiting for him there. If he was just slightly slower, he would have already been caught. As for Jiang Hu, Wang Lin could only wish for the best as he was in danger himself. After leaving Tang family city, Wang Lin kept tracing south as the Tang family disciples chased behind him. Suddenly, A rainbow color light shot out from Tang family city. The light passed by all of the Tang family disciples and shot at Wang Lin. An almost unreal, large flying sword appeared and slashed down at Wang Lin. At that moment, lightning gathered into countless balls and fell down with the sword. Wang Lin's scalp felt numb as Situnan shouted, "This is a nascent level treasure. Wang Lin, retract all of your divine sense. I'm going to teleport you." Blue crystal quickly spread from the crystal in Wang Lin's hand and covered his body. The moment that happened, the giant sword fell down. Sounds of the ground shattering echoed and the balls of lightning fell, creating waves of lightning. Wang Lin's body disappeared the moment the giant sword fell down. His body reappeared 300 meters away and he immediately flew away. Situnan's voice sounded weak as he scolded Wang Lin. "That little bastard is already at the foundation establishment stage at that young age. If you were at the foundation establishment stage, I could borrow your body and use some techniques. But right now, with only your chi condensation cultivation level, no matter how much I help, I can only get rid of a mid-stage foundation establishment." Teng Li frowned, but immediately smiled. "You are the first person below core formation who has escaped from an attack from me. If it wasn't for Brother Jimo asking me to do this, I really wouldn't want to kill you." Wang Lin didn't even turn his head as he quickly escaped. His consumption of spiritual power was too great. Without any hesitation, he took out a gourd and drank a gulp as his speed rose. Teng Li's eyes became cold and said, "I want to see how many times you can teleport." With that, he pointed his finger at Wang Lin. The sky darkened and the giant sword appeared again. Chapter 82, Stealing Foundation, 2. All of the lightning balls roared as the giant sword swung down. Situnan didn't wait for Wang Lin to give him permission, he instantly teleported them again after cursing a few times. Teng Li frowned. He snorted and waved his right hand. The flying sword followed his hand and chased after Wang Lin. Two rays of rainbow followed one after the other as they flew across the sky. The Teng family's disciples chased for a while before giving up because they couldn't keep up. The more Teng Li chased, the more shocked he became. With his late-stage foundation establishment cultivation, every time he caught up to the brat would teleport away. The more Wang Lin acted like this, the more interested Teng Li became. Teleport was a nascent soul technique. Wang Lin wasn't even at the foundation establishment stage, but could use teleportation. In Teng Li's eyes, Wang Lin must own a treasure that did this. Thinking about that, he licked his lips. The urges to kill Wang Lin for the treasure became even stronger. He was very good friends with old man Jimo's eldest disciple, Chen Zhong. A few days ago, he received a voice transmission jade from Chen Zhong to kill two people. One of them was Jiang Hu, who was the disciple of the fifth disciple of old man Jimo. Jiang Hu got outside help to kill his teacher, and at the moment of the fifth disciple's death, old man Jimo detected it. The Jiang Hu didn't know that besides the poison, there was also a secret technique that old man Jimo used to control his disciples inside of him. By using this technique, he saw everything that occurred. In a fit of rage, old man Jimo used the technique to predict where Jiang Hu would be and sent out his eldest disciple, Chen Zhong, to find the two. Chen Zhong was very far away, so he sent a message to Teng Li to help him with this matter. Teng Li did a search and found that Jiang Hu was indeed inside Tang family city and the person with Jiang Hu must have been his accomplice. Those were the events that lead up to now. Originally, he just planned on helping as a favor, but now, he was determined to kill Wang Lin for the treasure that allowed him to teleport. Thinking about that, his speed increased as he chased after Wang Lin. Wang Lin drank a large gulp of spirit liquid. He then opened his mouth and spat out a ray of green light. The moment the green light appeared, the smell of blood filled the air. Soon, the green light flashed as it shot backward while Wang Lin continued to charge forward. Teng Li could clearly see what was going on. He didn't mind the green light at all and let out a sneer. He pointed at the green light and a lightning ball appeared that shot toward the green light. The moment the lightning ball touched the green light, it exploded. Teng Li looked at it with a look of contempt before withdrawing his gaze. Just at that moment, a ray of green light flashed 10 meters before him. The light shot toward Teng Lin and hit his body. His clothes were instantly destroyed, revealing glittering armor. After the green light was stopped by the armor, it immediately flashed and disappeared without a trace. Wang Lin secretly sighed and felt very regrettable. The green sword appeared in his hand as he continued to run away. Sweat appeared on Teng Li's forehead. What just happened was simply too dangerous. Even with his late-stage foundation establishment cultivation, if he was hit, he would have been seriously injured. Also, the light that sword released showed that it wasn't a simple treasure. He guessed that if he was hit by it, he would have died on the spot. Teng Li touched the armor his grandfather gave him and felt like he was very lucky, but his urge to kill Wang Lin had increased even more. A cold light flashed across his eyes as he muttered to himself, besides the treasure that can teleport, he also has that sword. Little guy, all of your treasures will belong to me. In a desert, 3 days later, Wang Lin drank a gulp of spirit liquid and muttered to himself, there isn't enough spirit liquid left. I must find a way to quickly replenish it. Situnan weakly said, kid, I can't hold out much longer. I have used teleport too much in these past 3 days and don't have much essence left. Wang Lin turned his head and his eyes were filled with killing intent as he coldly said, he caught up again. He touched his bag of holding and a green sword appeared in his hand. The sword's color was dull and there were a few scratches on it. In these 3 days, Wang Lin had used the sword many times, but since Teng Li was already on guard, it was hard to launch a sneak attack. Also, Wang Lin's sword couldn't penetrate even an inch because of Teng Li's armor. After sending out the flying sword, Wang Lin spread out his divine sense and found a forest to the west. The forest was covered in a layer of fog. After pondering a little, without a word, Wang Lin flew to the west. In the blink of an eye, he arrived at the forest and descended to the ground. Wang Lin knew that he was running out of spirit liquid and Situnan couldn't teleport anymore, so if he stayed in the air, he would be caught for sure. It would be better to give up on flying and travel on foot in the forest. Although he didn't know why this forest was covered by fog, he found that when he spread out his divine sense, his senses became muddy and he could only feel a dozen meters around him. Shortly after Wang Lin entered the forest, a rainbow arrived at the edge of forest. After circling the air around the forest, Teng Li stopped at the entrance. He had used up too much spiritual energy chasing Wang Lin in the past 3 days. If he didn't have recovery pills with him, he would have already given up on the chase. But the treasures that Wang Lin possessed had always kept him hooked. He wished he could immediately kill Wang Lin and take the treasures. Also, he didn't expect Wang Lin to last for so long. Even though Wang Lin could use a teleportation treasure, he didn't expect it to be this hard. He thought that because Wang Lin still hadn't even reached the foundation establishment stage, he would be able to outlast Wang Lin. So he wasn't in a rush during the entire chase and was waiting until Wang Lin ran out of spiritual energy to kill him in one blow. But he gave up this idea after the second day of chasing. Instead of slowing down, Wang Lin's speed increased as the chase went on. After observing for 3 days, Teng Li was completely shocked. He saw that Wang Lin would constantly take out a gourd and that every time he drank from it, his speed would increase. He had seen this countless times during the 3-day chase. The urges to kill Wang Lin became even stronger. Teng Li stood outside the forest. His eyes became cold, but he was a bit nervous about the forest. He thought, this wild jungle is very mysterious. It is constantly surrounded by a fog and even grandfather said to stay away from this place. Now, should I keep chasing or not? After pondering a little, Teng Li made a decision. The treasures Wang Lin possessed made Teng Li determined to make them his own. There were many ancient trees that reached the sky and were filled with leaves. The ground was covered with half-a-meter thick layer of dead leaves. Countless poisonous insects crawled on the ground and snakes quickly moved through the leaves. 1,000-year-old trees could be seen everywhere. Countless types of flowers filled the ground, and many different types of beasts inhabited the area. The smell formed by the rotting leaves and animals created a stench strong enough to kill. This place was covered by fog year-round. Strange trees grew tall enough to reach the sky and beasts as powerful as nascent soul cultivators lived here. If one was not careful, then it would be easy to lose one's life here. Wang Lin spread out his divine sense as he quickly moved through the forest. Situnan quickly shouted, "Stop! Quickly stop!" Wang Lin's body stopped in an instant. Situnan sucked in a breath and slowly said, "What kind of place is this, to still have blue line vines? These blue vines are causes of disaster. A rank 2 country was wiped out by blue line vines before." "Blue line vine?" Wang Lin was startled. Situnan seriously said, "Before you is a vine, and on the vine there is a blue line. What is this?" "Wait, this isn't blue line vine. Strange. Wang Lin, this should be a baby blue line vine. You better avoid it, because adult blue line vine is a nightmare for cultivators below core formation. This stuff is very sensitive to blood, and every time it devours someone, it evolves. If it manages to reach the intermediate stage, then not even spirit-forming cultivators can resist it. Also, this stuff is very sensitive to fluctuations of spiritual energy, so don't use techniques to attack it." Wang Lin looked around with a serious look in his eyes, and his gaze fell on a vine in the distance. This vine looked very normal, besides the thin blue line on it. Otherwise, it looked exactly like any other vine. Wang Lin pondered a little. He didn't listen to Situnan's warning, but walked forward without emitting any spiritual energy. He carefully pinched the vine and slowly pulled it out. After pulling it out for 3 meters, he let go and backed up. He cut his finger and flicked a drop of blood onto the vine. The moment the vine was hit by the blood, it immediately began to flail as a few more blue line vines came out of the root and gathered together. After stirring for a while, they calmed down. Sweat appeared on Wang Lin's forehead. He faintly grinned and quickly left. Soon after he left, Teng Li arrived as well. Teng Li had been using techniques non-stop to catch up to Wang Lin, and Teng Li didn't even bother to pay any attention to the few vines on the ground. Although his divine sense was restricted, he could clearly feel that Wang Lin was very close. He let out a sneer as he moved faster, but just as he passed some ordinary-looking vines, a change occurred. Chapter 83, Stealing Foundation, 3. 2 days later, Wang Lin was next to a creek, filling his gourd with water while carefully checking his surroundings. His expression suddenly changed as he cursed, "This is never going to end." He sent out his flying sword, put away his gourd as he jumped across the river, and ran deeper into the forest. A moment later, Teng Li carefully chased after Wang Lin, not daring to use any spiritual power. He looked very pathetic. His clothes were torn and his armor had lost its luster. His right arm was limp as he chased after Wang Lin. His hair was disheveled, his face was pale, and his eyes were filled with rage. His hatred for Wang Lin had reached an unimaginable degree. He had always been treated like a genius ever since he was little, and never before had he been put into such a pathetic situation. All of this was caused by Wang Lin. The vines 2 days ago almost killed him. He never thought that such small vines could be so deadly. When the liquid the vine shot out hit his armor, it started to dissolve the plate. If it was only that, then it would be fine. He would have killed it with his flying sword. However, this vine was undying. Every time he cut the vine, it would divide into more. Even the lightning bolt created by the flying sword couldn't stop the vines. Then, there were sneak attacks by Wang Lin's strange flying sword. His right arm was injured by the flying sword. Finally, Teng Li had to take out his life-saving treasure given to him by his grandfather. The treasure was very powerful, but it only had one use. He had never used it once ever since he received it, but he knew that if he didn't use it now, he wouldn't be able to save his own life. In the end, under the power of the treasure, a majority of the vines were destroyed and the rest retreated back underground. Teng Li used this opportunity to finally escape. Thinking about it now, his forehead got covered in cold sweat. As for Wang Lin, he now hated him to the bones. Especially the fact that Wang Lin never attacked him head-on and always sneak attacked him. With that strange flying sword Wang Lin possessed, Teng Li had to keep his flying sword floating around him at all times. He carefully checked the river. After hesitating for a bit, he drank some water from it as he was very thirsty after chasing for 5 or 6 days. The water felt very refreshing and sweet. Teng Li felt rejuvenated and was about to drink more when his heart suddenly skipped a beat. A small green sword quietly appeared before him and stabbed toward his head. Teng Li quickly retreated without any hesitation as he called his own flying sword to protect him. The two flying swords collided with each other, but the green sword was clearly at a disadvantage. After a while, the green sword gained a few more scratches as it suddenly flashed and disappeared. Teng Li looked at the hair the small green sword had cut as he screamed at the top of his lungs, "Damn it! I swear that when I catch you, I'll let you experience all of the torture in the world and then refine your soul." Wang Lin was running through the jungle as his face suddenly turned red and he swallowed a mouthful of blood. The green sword appeared next to him. He felt pain in his heart when he saw the new scratches. A cold light flashed across his eyes as he kept running. Late into the night, 5 days later, Wang Lin and Teng Li were still running through the jungle. They had already entered into the deep part of the jungle, and on that night, Wang Lin suddenly stopped. Situnan quickly said, "Brat, you noticed it too? There is a very powerful spiritual fluctuation northwest of here. Go check it out." In these past few days, he had been on his toes using all of his knowledge to help Wang Lin avoid one danger after another. Without a word, Wang Lin changed his direction to northwest. Shortly after, he arrived at the spot of the spiritual fluctuation. The scene before him caused his pupils to contract. Under the moonlight was a giant tree that had been completely uprooted, laying on the ground. The area was clear of everything besides a dead body lying on the ground. Above his head floated a green bead as spiritual energy gathered from all directions, forming many smaller swirls. Situnan was stunned and said, with a surprised tone, "A green core? Didn't think there would be a green core from a rank 4 country here." Wang Lin asked, "What is a green core?" "This is the rank 4 country's demon sect's special cultivation technique, the green core, or the fake core. Unlike normal cores, you can have as many green cores as you wish. I remember that there was a madman from a rank 4 country who had tens of thousands of green cores. Not even spirit-forming cultivators from rank 5 countries would dare to mess with him. It has to be said that besides the ability to increase your cultivation, what makes the green core deadly is when it explodes. It is really powerful when tens of thousands of those green cores explode at once." Wang Lin's eyes lit up and he suddenly asked, "How many green cores does this person before us have? Can you tell him? Only one is pretty good for him, and this person is also not a living person. He is clearly a zombie that has intelligence. He was probably a demonic cultivator from a rank 4 country that used a technique before his death to turn into a zombie." That zombie had clearly already seen Wang Lin. He didn't move, but raised his finger and flicked. A green light shot out straight toward Wang Lin's forehead. Wang Lin quickly retreated and dodged the green light. The green light didn't chase, but made a circle and stopped. The green light projected a blurry image that released an unclear voice. "Leave this place. You die." With that, the image's body moved as it disappeared. Soon, the massive amount of spiritual energy fluctuation disappeared without a trace, as if it was completely covered up. Wang Lin carefully backed away without even batting his eyes. After a bit, a cold light flashed across his eyes and he no longer ran away, but spread out his divine sense, waiting for Teng Li to catch him. Teng Li's flying sword circled around his body, getting rid of anything in his way. He suddenly noticed something as he smiled. He pointed his finger forward and his flying sword shot out. Wang Lin's shadow was within sight. Teng Li became excited as he checked his surroundings. Wang Lin's actions put him on guard. He sneered, "How come you're not running?" Wang Lin pointed with his right finger and the green flying sword appeared. He waved his hand and the green sword shot out. Then, he took out a piece of jade, then spat out a mouthful of spiritual energy onto the jade. Suddenly, 4 golden characters appeared from the jade. Teng Li grinned. He bit his finger and flung out a drop of his blood onto his flying sword. Suddenly, the flying sword shook as it released demonic light and grew into a great sword. Countless lightning balls appeared as well, but there were clearly a lot less than before. The moment the great sword appeared, it released a cold aura as Teng Li swung it down. Wang Lin's small sword teleported and arrived behind Teng Li. Right before the sword could strike, Teng Li touched his bag of holding and a bell suddenly appeared and attached to his body. The small green sword struck the bell and waves of ripples appeared on it. While the great sword was swinging down, Wang Lin pointed his finger and the 4 golden symbols shot toward it. Wang Lin backed up until he arrived at the place he saw the zombie. The 4 symbols all exploded after they collided with the flying sword, sending it back up. However, there were simply too few golden symbols, so after pausing in the air for a bit, the great sword continued to swing down. Crackling sounds came from the ground as the ground clearly couldn't handle the pressure. All of the giant trees in the surrounding area fell over. Just as the sword came down, Wang Lin's body was covered in a blue light and he teleported away. Just as the sword was about to come in contact with his body, he teleported 100 meters away with a stream of blood trickling down from his forehead. The great sword slammed down into the ground with a bang. Soon after, a ghostly scream appeared and a ghostly figure that smelled like a rotten corpse charged toward Teng Li. Teng Li's expression suddenly changed. He already had his suspicions, but he didn't expect such a creature to be living here. He pointed his finger forward as the lightning balls slammed into the zombie. The lightning balls were very powerful and lightning was also the weakness of all undead. They immediately exploded when they touched the zombie. The zombie let out a scream as part of its body was blown off, revealing black bones. Teng Li sneered as he waved his left hand. Suddenly, more than 10 lightning balls appeared around the flying sword. The lightning balls charged toward the zombie, with the great sword following closely behind. Wang Lin secretly thought, not good. He didn't think that the zombie would be this weak and was about to escape. The zombie also noticed that something was wrong and, in a life and death situation, it let out a scream and spat out a green core. The moment the green core appeared, it immediately exploded. A wave of energy expanded outward in a ring around the zombie. All of the surrounding plants turned to dust and Teng Li, who was simply too close, bit the tip of his tongue and spat blood onto the bell attached to his body. In a flash, the bell went from a half-transparent state to a more solid form. There were many ancient patterns on the bell. The moment the wave hit Teng Li, the bell shook violently. It only lasted a few seconds before it cracked. Using the time the bell bought for him, Teng Li threw out one treasure after another. As the bell broke, defensive layers went up in front of him one by one. Chapter 84, Stealing Foundation, 4. The countless layers of colorful defensive barriers were quickly broken through by the explosion like a sharp blade going through paper. As for Wang Lin, because he was very far away and the zombie was mainly targeting Teng Li, the shock wave didn't affect him much. When the waves arrived, he calmly took out a piece of jade and threw it in front of him. The jade immediately cracked and released a yellow gas that surrounded Wang Lin. His eyes pierced through the yellow gas and locked on to Teng Li. The shock waves created by the explosion had started to weaken, but almost all of Teng Li's defenses had been broken. When the last layer of defense broke down, Teng Li pointed his finger at the zombie, ordering his great sword to stop its attack. At the same time, Teng Li quickly backed up 50 meters. He had already developed a deep fear of this zombie. If it wasn't for the fact that he had so many treasures, he would have already died. It has to be said that even though the zombie's green core's explosion wasn't as strong as a normal core's explosion, it still took Teng Li's late-stage foundation establishment cultivation with a ton of treasures to barely resist it. He was completely terrified that the zombie would throw out another green core like that. He had already lost all his urge to kill Wang Lin and only wanted to escape. Wang Lin had always been staring at Teng Li. He let out a faint smile as a cold light flashed across his eyes. He raised his right hand before him, put 2 of his fingers together, then gently pushed forward. Suddenly, a green light flashed and Teng Li felt pain striking his back as he was backing up. He panicked and, without looking back, continued to retreat. Wang Lin frowned. Teng Li's almost broken armor managed to stop the sword from piercing through his flesh. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat out some blood. The small green sword appeared in the blood and let out a loud sword hum, then quickly flew toward Teng Li. While in the air, the green sword suddenly teleported and stabbed toward Teng Li's back. Teng Li suddenly turned his head. His eyes were bloodshot and revealed a vicious gaze. A few pieces of jade quickly flew out of his bag of holding, forming defensive barriers. At the same time, he raised his left hand and pointed at Wang Lin. His great sword suddenly paused and sliced toward Wang Lin while several lightning balls appeared and smashed toward the zombie. He was betting, betting on whether Wang Lin's flying sword stabbed himself first or if his great sword would cut Wang Lin in half. If Wang Lin used teleport to escape, then he would lose control of the flying sword and give Teng Li time to escape. He was already almost out of gas, so if he stayed around any longer, he would be digging his own grave. Situnan screamed, "Mad! You are mad!" Without waiting for Wang Lin, Situnan decided to teleport them. Right as the blue light appeared, Wang Lin shouted, "It is not time to teleport yet. Stop!" A vicious look appeared on his face. Without looking at the great sword, he controlled the small sword to dodge the defensive layers and appeared before Teng Li. Teng Li panicked. His great sword was already half a meter above Wang Lin's head. A stream of blood flowed from Wang Lin's forehead. Wang Lin didn't even bat an eye as he grinned and said, "Die." The green sword flashed. It pierced through the armor and Teng Li's body, followed by a trail of blood. At the same time, Situnan used teleport. A blue light flashed as Wang Lin's body disappeared under the great sword and appeared before the bloody Teng Li. The great sword smashed down and created a deep rift in the ground. Wang Lin ignored the blood on his forehead, knelt down, and put his hand on Teng Li's body. Situnan knew what Wang Lin was thinking. The heaven-defying bead suddenly lit up and a stream of energy flowed from the bead into Teng Li. Teng Li's body quickly froze into an ice sculpture with a terrified expression on his face. All of this happened in a short period of time. It happened so fast that the zombie didn't even realize what had happened. When it realized that Teng Li had been frozen, he cautiously looked at Wang Lin. All of the lightning balls that were charging toward the zombie dissipated. Even the great sword shrunk down to a small silver sword and fell into the rift on the ground. Wang Lin grabbed the ice sculpture and slowly backed away as he pointed the green flying sword at the zombie. The zombie stared at Wang Lin and screamed. It was about to charge at Wang Lin when it looked at the rift on the ground. During that moment of hesitation, Wang Lin had already moved more than 300 meters away and disappeared with a teleport. The zombie let out a roar and shot a look of frustration at Wang Lin's direction. It jumped into the rift and retrieved Teng Li's sword with a look of excitement and swallowed it. Wang Lin held the ice sculpture. His face was pale as he quickly moved through the forest. After making sure no one was following him, he finally relaxed a bit. He took out a gourd of spirit water and chugged it all down before sitting down cross-legged to cultivate. The forest was silent. After a long time, Wang Lin opened his eyes as Situnan's discontented voice came. "Brat, are you crazy? If I was a bit slower, you would have lost your life." Wang Lin deeply said, that was the only opportunity to kill Teng Li. If his spiritual energy recovered, there would never have been a second chance. This person has also chased me for several days. If I let him live, he will be a nuisance in the future, so I decided to take the risk. Also, the speed of the great sword depended on how much spiritual energy he had left in his body. Back then, he was almost out of power, so he couldn't have been faster than my sword. Situnan was silent. He found himself feeling as if he had just got to know the real Wang Lin. After a long time, he said, "You are qualified now. With that state of mind, you can establish your own sect in this cultivation world." Situnan's voice was no longer filled with arrogance, but with a bit of respect. If it was himself in that situation, he wouldn't have dared to risk it. Wang Lin didn't speak, but stared at Teng Li, who was trapped in ice. His eyes lit up and he said, "Is it fine to steal his foundation?" After hearing Wang Lin's question, Situnan replied, "It's completely possible. He is at the late stage of foundation establishment, so if you use him to break into foundation establishment, your cultivation level will rise faster than normal. Also, you will receive a bit of his talent, so your own talent will increase. This kid is already so strong at this early age, so his talent must be amazing. Haha, this time, you got something good from your gamble." With that, Situnan explained the chant and the process of stealing foundation again. It wasn't until the sun went down that Situnan finished. Wang Lin spat out the green sword and stabbed it into a giant tree nearby. After carving a hole in the tree, Wang Lin jumped inside with Teng Li. He didn't put away the green sword, but had it float around him. The hole wasn't large and was very moist, but Wang Lin couldn't be bothered by that now. He washed his wounds on his forehead with spirit liquid before he started to cultivate. In the morning of the next day, Wang Lin opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of spiritual power that turned into mist. Wang Lin didn't stop as his hand formed seals and shot out a blue light. The moment the blue light entered the spiritual energy mist, it started to move like boiling water as it shrunk and expanded. Wang Lin's expression remained calm as he kept moving his hand and shot blue light into the spiritual energy mist. As more blue lights got shot into it, it started to shrink and expand even faster. Immediately after, he moved his right hand and grabbed Teng Li's body. Situnan melted the ice without Wang Lin even asking. In a flash, the ice crystal surrounding Teng Li disappeared. Wang Lin's eyes lit up as he pointed his hand at the spiritual energy mist. The mist entered Teng Li's body. His body suddenly shook as his face revealed a painful expression, but his eyes remained closed. Soon, all of the mist entered Teng Li's body. Wang Lin took a deep breath as he revealed a serious expression. He bit the tip of his tongue, then drew a strange blood symbol with his hand. Wang Lin waved his right hand and the symbol landed on Teng Li's chest. Teng Li's body violently quivered as his arms and legs convulsed and blood flowed out of his orifices. However, the blood didn't drip down, but converged together. Soon after, a crisp snapping sound came from Teng Li's body as his face turned red and a strange shade of red appeared on his skin. Drops of blood seeped out of his skin. Wang Lin's expression became even more serious. Without even blinking once, he drew another blood symbol that landed on Teng Li's chest. Teng Li suddenly opened his mouth and let out a few miserable groans as all of the blood vessels in his body broke. Blood flowed out of his body and gathered in the air. In the blink of an eye, a giant ball of blood floated above Teng Li. His red-colored body quickly turned pale. Wang Lin's forehead was covered in sweat. He watched the ball of blood as he quickly formed seals and sent out techniques toward it. Soon, the ball of blood slowly shrunk until it was the size of a fist, emitting a blood-red light. Wang Lin took a deep breath. His entire body was soaked in sweat. Without stopping, he spat out more spiritual energy and shot blue light into it. Then, Wang Lin motioned with his hand and the mist went into Teng Li's body again. Chapter 85, Stealing Foundation, 5. Teng Li suddenly opened his eyes. His eyes had no light and were bloodshot. His lips quivered and his jaw was clenched. Wang Lin drew a complex symbol in the air with his right hand. Then, he bit his finger and flicked a drop of blood onto Teng Li's head. Teng Li let out a groan as his body started to violently twitch. Things started to move under his skin and made their way to his chest. Not long after, Teng Li's body visibly shrunk as all the muscles and veins in his body formed a big ball of meat on his chest. Wang Lin's eyes lit up. His right hand waved and sent out another technique. With a bang, the ball of meat separated from Teng Li's body. His body was now just a bag of bones. Wang Lin took a deep breath and spat out another mouthful of spiritual energy. The energy entered the ball of meat and, after a while, it shrunk down to the same size as the ball of blood. Wang Lin revealed an exhausted expression. He took out a gourd and drank a gulp before he started to cultivate. After a short while, he opened his eyes and pointed at Teng Li's body. Suddenly, loud cracking sounds filled the air. All of the bones in Teng Li's body crumbled into bone powder and formed a ball of bone dust. Blood, meat, and bone balls lined up, releasing a demonic aura. Wang Lin sighed and muttered to himself, in order to steal one's foundation, you need their blood, meat, bones, soul, and spirit root. Also, the person can't die when you extract their blood, meat, and bone. This technique is just too cruel. Situnan slowly said, this is nothing. In the country I came from, there are demonic sects that steal cores. That stuff is really cruel. Not only does the person who has their core taken suffer, even the person stealing it has to suffer, all for less than a 1% success rate. Wang Lin pondered a little and regained his focus. He pointed his hand at Teng Li and started to chant. As Wang Lin chanted faster and faster, white gas was coming out of the pile of meat that was once Teng Li's body and gathered in the air. After an unknown amount of time, the white gas got very dense and formed a human shape. If one looked closely, the figure looked exactly like Teng Li. The little person's eyes revealed a confused look and his body shook. Slowly, the confused look disappeared as he looked viciously at Wang Lin and let out some silent screams. Wang Lin didn't even bat an eye. He waved his hand and a red light appeared. The little person seemed to be afraid of the red light and tried to escape, but the area 3 meters around Teng Li's body was like a prison. No matter how hard the little person tried to escape, it couldn't get out. Finally, the little person saw that he couldn't escape. He let out a vicious look and charged toward the red light. Wang Lin revealed a deadpan expression as he waved his hand. The red light circled around the little person a few times and pulled it toward Wang Lin. Wang Lin knew that the soul extraction step was very important. He must safely extract the soul out of that 3-meter range without breaking it. Although a broken soul won't affect him stealing the foundation, he wouldn't be able to use Teng Li's spirit root to improve his own if the soul were to break. That little person's face revealed a painful expression as the red light slowly pulled it out. In the blink of an eye, half of its body had been dragged past the 3-meter mark. At that moment, a yellow light shone from the little person's body and the yellow light broke the red light. The little person quickly retreated back into the 3-meter space and with the glow of the yellow light, the little person became more solid. Wang Lin's face darkened as he stared at the little person. His hand moved to cast the technique again. The little person's face revealed a look of horror as he spoke. "If you kill me, my grandfather won't let you go. He is a nascent soul cultivator, so if you kill me, you will die for sure." A cold light flashed across Wang Lin's eyes. He spat out a lot of spiritual energy. Then, he constantly casted one technique after another on the spiritual energy until it became a thin line. The little person's fear became even worse as he said, "My grandfather already knows that I am in danger and he should be here any second. You." Before he could finish, Wang Lin waved his hand. The line wrapped around the little person and pulled him out. The little person struggled and screamed, "Grandfather, save me." The yellow light glowed stronger as it resisted Wang Lin. Without a word, Wang Lin slapped his bag of holding and took out a gourd of spirit water. He poured the spirit water on the line and the line suddenly became as thick as a thumb as he pulled again. This time, no matter how hard the yellow light shone on the little person, it would no longer resist Wang Lin. The little person was pulled out of the 3-meter range. The moment the little person left the 3-meter range, the yellow light transformed into a yellow gas cloud, forming a shadowy figure inside. The figure wasn't clear, but a voice rang out, "Fellow cultivator, please stop. We can talk about this." Wang Lin was started, but Situnan quickly said, "Don't worry, this is an illusion avatar of a nascent soul cultivator. This is different from a physical avatar because it can't attack, see you, or even know your location. It only allows you to hear what he has to say. Also, looking at this illusion avatar, this person is very far away, that's why it is so blurry. As for why it is there, it seems he really loves Teng Li, so he always leaves that piece of divine sense with him." Without a word, Wang Lin pointed at the little person. The little person immediately stopped, struggled, and shrunk until it was a ball that released purple light. The illusion avatar seemed to have noticed that Teng Li's soul was being refined. He shouted, "You killed a Teng family member, so you must pay. I will find you one day and I will kill you." At a mountaintop tens of thousands of miles away, an old man in black robes stood up with a dark expression. His eyes lit up. He clenched his fist and muttered to himself, "Li, your grandfather promises that I will avenge you." With that, he hit his chest with his right hand and coughed up black blood. His right hand rapidly drew in the black blood, forming countless strange symbols that floated in the air. Then, purple-colored small people appeared and sat in the air. The little person shouted, "Curse, go." The little person's hand formed a seal as his divine sense split up and fused into all the symbols. Curse, complete. The old man's soul visibly shrunk. It seemed he wasn't afraid to waste his energy at all. Those symbols with divine sense infused into them glowed a demonic light as they floated into the sky. They covered up half the sky, forming a formation, causing thunder to rumble. Curse, turn. The formation started to slowly turn. Blood-colored lightning appeared in the sky, forming a strange diamond shape. Curse, close. The little person let out a shout as the earth shook. He spat out more soul energy as the formation spun faster and faster, and the strange blood-colored lightning became more and more solid. Soon, the formation shrunk until all the blood-colored lightning was engraved onto the diamond shape. The pattern slowly fell down from the sky and imprinted onto the forehead of the little person. The little person let out a dark smile and said, "If you kill people of the Teng family, you will be cursed by me." Inside the hole in the tree were 4 balls floating before Wang Lin. He pointed his finger at Teng Li's remains, and countless specks of gold light floated out of the remains. These specks of light were countless, and 1/3 of them dissipated into the surroundings. Wang Lin took a deep breath. He knew that these specks of light were the so-called spirit root. He spat out a mouthful of spiritual energy to devour the spirit root. The devoured spirit root immediately began to reject Wang Lin, and the other 1/3 disappeared. Wang Lin was only able to devour 1/3 of Teng Li's spirit root. Just as at that moment, Wang Lin's forehead started to shine and a purple diamond appeared on it. Wang Lin immediately noticed it. He raised his hand to touch his forehead, and his expression suddenly changed. Situnan quickly exclaimed, "This person really is high-handed. Wang Lin, you have been cursed by a nascent soul cultivator. With this curse, once you enter a certain range of him, he will be able to instantly teleport next to you. I didn't expect him to give up his own lifespan to use this complicated formation curse on you." Wang Lin suddenly stood up. His face was dark as he asked, "Is there any way to break it?" Situnan pondered a little and proudly laughed. "Actually, you don't have to be too worried. This type of curse doesn't have any offensive capabilities. It only allows him to locate you to teleport to you. Although this person's curse is good, I have spent a lot of time studying curses like this, ones that use formations and the fluctuations of spiritual energy in the world to apply the curse. I can't cast any because I have lost my body, but I can still help you break them. With my help, cover your aura. As long as you aren't too close to him, he won't be able to find you, so relax." Wang Lin, this is also another resource. I know of this ancient technique that can be used to make the curse to affect the caster. It requires you to be at the core formation stage, then, with some help of pills, you will be able to steal half of his cultivation. Ah, your luck is pretty good, kid.